In 2 weeks' time, the four of us have agreed to meet again to clarify the objectives of surveying students and staff. We did get to the point of saying we want two different surveys. We want to survey students, specifically senior students who are doing courses that have climate change in them, though possibly when we talk about objectives we might extend that to students who are not doing climate change, because we want to know more about the student experience of climate change teaching. We feel we haven't got enough of that on this table. The second survey would be targeted at staff, trying to flesh out a little bit more what they're doing and how they're doing it, and then what their needs are and what kind of contribution they feel they could make in cross-campus climate change teaching.
We hit on really a core idea that we developed quite a lot actually. We sort of didn't go much beyond looking at that particular issue, and that was in terms of making a video for teaching purposes. For lack of a better term, they're along the lines of dummies guides to climate change, or dummies guides to aspects of climate change. And we can see a whole range of different topics that could potentially be short videos of between 3 to 5 minutes, 3 to 6 minutes each. Just to give you an indication, the first one we're going to start on, I'll explain what we're going to do in a moment, looks at the science of climate change. What is it? How do we know it? What are the consequences? And then there's a range of other topics like what is an emissions trading regime? What is energy efficiency? What do we mean by mitigation and adaptation? What's the difference between the two? What is RED? What is carbon capture and storage? What are our options for renewable energy? What are our existing policies? What is the UNFCCC? What's the Kyoto Protocol? What's the Copenhagen Accord? How are these treaties negotiated? How does climate change affect Australia? Why is this also an equity and fairness issue in terms of developing world perspectives on the issue? Why is sea level rise a problem? So there's a whole range of things, and we'll at a later date we'll actually go through and flesh out which ones we want to target. But as an initial thing, what we were thinking we would do is what is the science of climate change, and how do we know, and what are the consequences, as a 3 to 6 minute video. And that seems to be something that can be done quite quickly. So what we're planning to do is to look first of all at what else is out there on YouTube, see if there's some interesting things there that we can maybe adapt or modify. Develop a script or an ideas for a script, potentially with the involvement of a science communicator that we've got access to. And what we're suggesting is that the four of us are going to meet sometime in the next 2 weeks to actually develop further the ideas for what might be in this video. And then the initial video apparently can be done quite quickly. We're looking at having the first cut of that available by the end of September.
Well, one of our ideas was actually a video practicing, or it's a mock conversation explaining, between a climate change scientist and a climate change skeptic. And I don't know if that could tie into what you're going to make. But if you could have students in your video...
It's the underlying goal of our video.
Yeah. Well, why can't we combine the two and make that our one-off event for October?
I don't know that.
Say a little bit more about what you talked about.
Oh, okay, well we had a few ideas. One of them was a mock prosecution for crimes against future generations. It's set in the future, and it's a sort of in the vein of the retrial of Galileo, as you're aware of. And I don't know, we just thought it could be set in maybe 2060, and the world's looking to blame somebody. I don't know who's on trial, maybe the planet. But that could be something interesting. That would be a one-off thing. The other one was the mock conversation, explaining climate change science to a skeptic. And then we've got, Nicola had a really good idea where we have a land care weekend at Wellington. We plant trees and measure carbon, and we could somehow incorporate all these different disciplines into that, and that could later on be... Yeah, it could be...
Wellington with tree planting.
But it could later on be a unit that could be incorporated into lots of different courses.
Can I just comment on that idea of a trial? I don't know if that sort of fits in very well with the idea of what we're talking about in this initial video, but I'm thinking it's something that in terms of the Faculty of Law, it would be an interesting idea to develop further, maybe not for the next month, but in the next 6 months. I mean, I'd be more than happy to help convene a trial of the usual suspects for climate change. And you know, we can incorporate some law, we can incorporate some theatrics, and then we could make it.
And we might even be able to interest someone like ABC's Big Ideas, who I have a partnership with. And we're doing a branded series called Hot Seat, but that doesn't preclude us approaching them to cover something like this or use something like this as well. I think that'd be really good as an event.
And pulling the threads from some of the, the emerging jurisprudence in this area where there has been actually some liability for crimes against future generations. I think, and the Galileo model works so well. It was a great format. You could get people of that calibre in a good chair.
I think we should talk to the ABC about that.
Okay, Mary. All